and then we did Against the Wind.
Yeah.
Well, I was informed when I got up there to rehearse for the Against the Wind tour that I guess Seger had a falling out with the keyboard player, Robbie Robbins, and we were going to audition new keyboard players. And we did, and the guy that got the gig was Craig Frost, who had played with, and his best friend, this new keyboard player, Craig Frost, his best buddy was the drummer with that band.
I see.
Don Brewer, and they were like this. And when he got the gig, he just moved in on Bob. You know Bob, we're close, and so he was working on getting Don Brewer in the gig.
Gotcha.
And I might do well noted. I mentioned to my wife, and she said, "Don't do it." But I said, I'm probably the only one and first one, and maybe only one that ever get us a bad review. And we did a deal. We played 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, and the guy that the New York Times sent out to review the show. You know, you always had a review, you know, anytime you played a show back then. And the guy was all mad because they'd had a free concert at, what's the park? Central Park.
Yeah.
With Simon and Garfunkel.
Steve Gadd on drums, was it?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, they made this guy go to our concert. He wanted to go to Simon and Garfunkel, but they made him go see Bob Seger. And he said something that we did the Chuck Berry medley that we'd come up with on Smoking OPs years previous. He said, "What does that drummer know anything about Chuck Berry? That was terrible." And there's a whole other story involved with that, but which I'm gonna have to tell you. I'm sorry, submit you that, but anyway, so, and it was weird. I laughed. I thought that was really funny.
It is funny.
And we stayed, you know, some real glorious place in New York when we were there. And the road manager was running up and down the hall picking up newspapers. You know, they place a newspaper outside the door. And he was picking up newspapers, so maybe Bob wouldn't see it, the article. But that was kind of my curse.
So it didn't do you any good then, did it?
No.
So somebody else's problem became your problem, really.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like to me. Yeah.
We did, you know, this new piano player was all over Seger. Yeah, Teegarden's dragging. And it was, I grew up, you know, being around Cale and Leon and them, knowing that time, you got to be a metronome. And was always my biggest fear was that I would rush or drag. And those guys were always all pumped up, and it's like you had to hold them back.
Right.
On occasion. And for some reason we came off stage one night, and Seger, we were walking back to the dressing room, and Seger said, "Teegarden, what's going on? You're dragging." What? I don't think so. But that led me to go out and buy a little Sony Walkman, I guess it was, and a case of tape, and I gave it to my drum tech. And I said, when we go on stage, the new cassette, put it in record right there for my drums. And that went on for about a week. One time we were playing down in Fort Worth, doing 2 nights down there. The first night I came off stage, it's Teegarden, your dragon. So I went back to the hotel and got out a sheet and listened to all of it. And indexed it all. And the next day, went to call Seger. Can I come over to your room? He said, yeah. And I brought the tape. I said, what song was it? Because you got to have full confidence in what I'm doing. And he said, oh, I think it was on Night Moves or something. So I ran it up and put the headphones on him and played it. He listened. He never said, I'm sorry, but he said, no, sounded okay to me. Okay. Case closed.
Just checking.
So we did sound check that day, and we were playing something, and Seger stopped us all, and he said, by the way, anybody have any problems with the time, talk to Teegarden. Oh, God. And, well, I said, yeah, okay. So then he said, and by the way, Dave, I want you to count off all the songs. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
So, but then everything was okay for the rest of the tour. And except we went to Europe and the European tour, and the next to the last gig was in Paris. And the next night we were supposed to go to, and I can't ever remember where it was Scandinavian somewhere. But we were at the airport in Paris waiting to fly to this next gig. And Seger said something. We were eating breakfast or something. And Seger said, what the hell happened to you last night? I said, what? Well, I said, there was some problem with the PA. The monitors weren't on for about 10, 15 seconds. And then they came on, everything was okay. And I said, I hadn't had a chance to check the tape. I was still running tape. And he said, fuck the tape. And I said, oh, it's over. This is it for me. So we did play that night. And I knew that was my last night. And sure enough, the piano player got his buddy on the gig.
Swung him in,
The
huh?
next tour they did.
Gotcha. Now, you were in Europe, you said at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you came back then, obviously. Did you land back here in T-Town?
Yeah.
Come back to T-Town and just, what'd you do then? You just started digging in all through T-Town and this area?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had pretty much immediate gig with a guy named Bill Davis. It was a singer. It was an incredible singer. And but he didn't have any desire to get out and do anything.
Everything was local.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he worked.
Right.
You know, we'd work 6 nights a week. And so I could mess with putting together a studio in my house.
That's what I was wondering. I was gonna ask you, you probably still were dabbling in like your
Oh, yeah.
recordings. Okay, so this is what, in the 80s then, right?
Yeah.
So in the 80s, MTV was coming on, and
Yeah.
radio was fighting against it. I grew up in that whole era, so
Yeah.
I was the MTV generation.